Hello, hello. All right. I think I'm live. 1 second. Let me just make sure that. Okay. Welcome back. Welcome back to Product Like It's Friday. For now, it's just me. Adnan is on his way. He's just got a family thing, but I want to get started on honeypot. This is going to be awkward because I am not used to talking to myself when I work. So we'll see how that goes. All right, let me just get a refresher on where we left off. So last Friday we got together and talked about how much we talked about like the history of where the idea came from, a little bit about my product framework or process, a little bit about like how do we decide on which things go into the MVP and the tension between all the things we want to build and delivering fast. Anyway, and then we met kind of on Wednesday, I think, Wednesday or Tuesday, just as an interim session to go over. Let me share my screen. To go over the opportunity solution tree, which I had taken away and mapped out. This is a lot of words, but on the high level, there are 3 separate sets of outcomes. So this is like the desired outcome in terms of what the user behavior is. So the first one is that facilitators can run games that support their audience's learning objectives. Note that we kept the language more broad, so it's facilitators and players, even though the primary use case we're thinking of is teachers in their classrooms with their students. So you can kind of subbing teachers to facilitators and students to players. And then the second outcome is that players are motivated to engage, grow, and come back. And I think last time when Adnan and I were here on Wednesday, we had aligned on some MVPs. So in this case, it's, we're going to have a classic B game. There's not going to be any like player side user interface or like requires a device or anything like that. There's going to be a preset of math questions specifically for grade 9. And this is just really to de-scope. So we're not busy creating the content. I mean, we still need to create the content, but like more just focused on like what are the needs for a grade 9 math classroom. Oh, and the light green stickies are like things that we will tackle if we make it through the MVP items. And then feedback, obviously, for providing answers. So if a player gets a question correct or incorrect, and then end of game wrap up with some way to highlight who won, that kind of thing. And then we also talked a little bit about this last outcome, which was just categorized under business. And this is really just, I think we want to acknowledge that even though we're limiting to the MVP, we want the option to extend beyond it. I feel strongly about collecting data, but I think that's more of something we can evaluate once we have wireframes and the core interactions outlined. So what I want to do today, I'm just thinking out loud here. What I want to do today is to take all these green items and I want to steal them to today's playground. No, where are they? What the heck? spring to front. Okay, do they need to be? Okay, I don't know why it's not. Okay, one sec. Let me just. Find it here. Oh, something is really broken here. Okay, that's fun. Okay, we're back. Okay, let me steal this and just pull it out because I don't think it likes. Sorry, you have to watch this. It's kind of painful. Come on, FigJam. Is that it? Really? There's only 5 items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, cool. And I'm just putting them. I'm just taking them to the other board because I get overwhelmed when I have too many things on a single board. So I like using pages. I know that's not everybody's cup of tea. And I guess a random note on structure in case anybody cares. How I've organized this FigJam board is I added some section dividers. So if you didn't know, you can just type dash 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 and it creates a section divider. Anyway, that's just a side note. So underneath the most, like the bottommost section is what I'm calling the product OS. Is how I'm thinking about it, is like the product operating system, the product process. But it's really just like discover, shape, deliver, and then some respective tools for each stage. I have no tools for deliver at this time. I think there might not be any. Maybe there is, but there are just a couple tools that we can draw upon. We don't always have to use every single one of them as well. So that's what that is. And then I also have like the playground area, which every Friday I will just add a page if we are going to be using FigJam, that is. We might not always, especially as we move towards the more shaping and delivery side of things. But it's pretty useful for like this early like ideation and mapping phase. And then above this section line, section divider, just like the top section, are like any artifacts that we create that we might want to refer back to. So today I want to be, oh damn, okay. Sorry, this was a different map that I thought I deleted. Anyway, so today our goal is to have a story map and maybe an assumption map, maybe not, we'll see. But to start, we'll do it on the playground, and then later on I can clean it up. Anyway, back to what we were talking about earlier. So these 5 items are the ones that we've aligned on as MVP. So it's going to be a classic B game with a specific set of math questions. The math questions should be templates that then create the questions. I don't know if I phrased that well, but primarily we're just thinking specifically about grade 9 classrooms. When players answer things correctly, they should get feedback, and then at the end of the game, there will be some sort of summary or highlight of something. So because it's only 5 items, I'm not too torn up about like ordering them or anything like that, but if there is a more complex product, for example, I might start thinking about like which item is applicable to which part of the user experience. So like, for example, if we do want to build like this whole tree as an example, then we probably want to think about like, okay, like which items are relevant for onboarding, which ones are more relevant for like end of game. Like this is, for example, an end of game thing. and then which one is like the core experience. Because there's only 5 items, I'm not worried about that at all, because I think I can keep them all in my brain. Again, I am not used to talking out loud, so you will have to bear with me. Hopefully nobody's watching. But anyway, let's get started with mapping. So this is a little abstract until you start seeing it in action, and then it makes a lot of sense. So what I've done here already is just to think about like who are the players, or like who are the type of users in this experience. So there's the facilitator, and then there's the player. And then on the product end, I'm just calling it system. Like you can call it anything you want. Like some people just say app, some people say like products, whatever it is. I'm just calling it system because it's more generic. If we are building, for example, an experience where there's an app for the facilitator, and then there's also like the player needs their own device, then we would probably want like something more like this, like this could be like computer system or whatever. But for MVP, we're not doing that, so we can keep it simple. So I'm gonna pull this here because I am not good at multitasking. So I'm just gonna put them where I can see them, and I will start mapping. So the first thing that I'm thinking about is like, how does a game start? Like the teacher needs to, the facilitator needs to, have a device, like whether it's a iPad or a laptop or whatever. The teacher needs to be able to open an app on the device and project it somewhere where the students can see. So I'm thinking about like, okay, the teacher opens app. No, let's. I think we're building a web app to start. So let's go with opens product. Let's keep it generic. Opens product on your device. Let's make it a little smaller because that's too big. Opens product on their device, and then they also need to make sure that the student can see it. I guess let's keep it separate steps. And then they are projecting the screen so all players, students can see it. You know what? I am gonna just add teacher because that helps my brain. And student opens product on the device, projects the screen somewhere. I don't know what they use in classrooms, so I will have to do some research. These days, let me add a comment just to call out research how teachers project stuff these days. All right, we'll come back to that later, but I don't think it matters at this point. We're just mapping out the core experience. So they've opened the product, they've projected it. Maybe this is in either order actually. And what should they see when they open the product? They should see some sort of like start screen. So I personally like describing, like giving a screen or a page a name, just like a unique identifier almost, so that as we map out more complex stories, it's probably not relevant for this one, but if we map out a complex story where, a user might have to be on the same screen to perform multiple actions, it's clear that it's the same screen. I think maybe some folks even give it like unique number, but I don't care enough for that. But some start screen, because we're not thinking about authentication, account creation, anything like that. It definitely just needs, I mean, maybe among other things, but it just needs a start a game button of some sort, maybe not in that exact copy. And I think that's it, right? Like, I don't think you need anything. It feels weird to talk to myself. Okay. Sorry, my brain is just having a moment. All right. One thing that I do want to add on the start screen is that I think it could be cool to like have a bee theme of some kind. I have this idea of like, oh, what if like the teacher can select different themes? Like maybe it's like a underwater theme and a bee theme and a cafe theme. But to start, I think it would be really cool if we just have like a bee, like honey type, like that theme. So I will add that because I want it. We'll see if we can make it happen. Bee themed. I'll add a little emoji because I like. And I just add emojis for shorthands, really. Like if you notice that on the OST, I'm just using the brain emoji for like solution ideas. In this case, I'm using a painter emoji for like any like visual elements that doesn't have anything to do with like the functionality. Mostly just a me being weird thing. Okay, anyway. Okay, so now they're at the welcome screen. I guess this is better as called a welcome screen. So they're at the welcome screen and they have a button that starts the game. I think in the future, this is also where like you can, do some settings stuff. My partner, for an example, loves going into the settings. The moment he gets into a game, he goes to the settings and just tweaks the image and the audio. I feel like a crazy person talking to myself. Okay, let's keep going. I think it will make me feel less crazy. So they have the welcome screen and they are projecting it somewhere so that all the students can see it. And next, by the way, I'm duplicating stickies because I find it easier than like dragging new stickies, especially if I want to keep the theme the same. If you know of a better way to do it, let me know. Oh, you can just, okay, I'll do that next time. Sorry, I had a FigJam moment. I don't use FigJam a lot. Okay, project the screen. And then I guess the teacher would be getting ready to start, right? Like, since there is no settings or anything, like there's no way that they're selecting a particular preset. They really just have the option of starting. At this point, what is the student doing? Good question. They're just sitting in their classrooms, sitting around. Okay, I am a stickler for like sticking to the same tense. Sits around and wait. Yes, learning to be patient. A highly important skill. Not really a skill, but I guess it's a skill. Anyway, the teacher clicks start a game, and then we are thinking about like, what does that look like? What happens next? So now I'm thinking about what is the system showing. By the way, I think the student line is going to be fairly empty, just because there is no interface they're directly, interacting with. But I think it's still good to think about like what happens, what's happening in the classroom. I think last time we had talked about, like the physicality of playing a game, especially when there is no like device to device interaction happening. There's a lot more happening off the screen. So it's good to think about what is happening there. Okay, so once the teacher has clicked start a game, click the tapped. If it's an iPad thing, then tap, I guess. Then what is the screen called? Like game overview screen. So the game overview, when you click start a game, you probably don't want to jump straight into the first question. Maybe there is some sort of like disclaimer or like, I guess like what are the things that are important for both the teacher and the student to know? Oh, Jesus. Okay. I think one thing is like what to expect next, and then like some way to like like start. Like I know that there's start a game, maybe it's start a round, because how spelling bee works, if I recall, is that you have say like 20 kids, and the kids just go one by one, like so 20 kids will each have a turn. So there's, maybe I will add a little thing here. What's the best type of shape? Sorry, I'm very particular sometimes, not always. Okay, I just want to illustrate, like, so we got game, and then we got like round, and then we got turn. So player turn, I guess. And I think this is good to illustrate. It's gonna be kind of ugly. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I don't know how to illustrate it well, but basically we got the game that contains multiple rounds. It could just be one round, and then the round that contain player turn. This is horrible. Okay, anyway, you get the point. And the reason why I'm illustrating this is, I mean, maybe Adnan would tell me I'm crazy for thinking about this, but the way I'm thinking about it is like each turn is going to be looped, and then each round is going to be looped, and then, yeah, I guess within the game. Yes, okay, that was a little side quest. I think that is helpful to keep in mind, because that helps me think about like, like you started the game and then you start the round and then you start the turn, if that makes sense. Okay, so there should be a button that starts the round, which should also start the turn, maybe. Should it? I feel like it's too many clicks if you like click once, click twice, click 3 times before the first turn even happens. So I'm gonna say let's skip the proactive like CTA of start a turn, at least for like the start of round a turn, like the first turn in a round. Okay, I'm getting myself confused at this point. I think what's also important is like who's next, like who is the first player. I think that's it. That's most of it anyway. Okay, I want to start like just writing some rough like copy, because I find it helpful to like know not exactly what roughly is gonna be on there, in case there's anything missing. So I think you should say something like round 1, and maybe some rules. I guess one discussion that Anang and I had was, should the teacher input the number of players ahead of a game, or should it be more like, all the kids go and then it's like, okay, I'm done this round? I think I want to go with the second option, but we can debate about that. But I think it could be cool to say like, the first player is ready to start. Bring up the first player. I don't know. Like we can maybe like to start. Maybe it's just a number like 0, 1. Although that's kind of lame, and I would. Oh man, this is still too large. Okay, I'm gonna make it small because there's too many things to cram in here. So this covers who's next. So at this point, I guess the players will need some way to like assign themselves. So maybe like at this point, the teacher might be like, who wants to go first? Who wants to go first? You know what? I think this is a little okay, and then the player volunteers to go first. Volunteers to go. Who wants to go? Let's keep it neutral and not specific to the first player. Okay, so who wants to go? So the student then should be like, okay, I am player number 1. I wanna again add some sort of B theme. Okay, maybe that's redundant. Let's not do that. Player 1. And then I think another key thing to know if you're a player is how much time do you have? And I don't know what a good amount of time is. So I'm gonna just leave it X to answer. So reminding folks, you got however many time to answer. Let's just say, okay, yeah, we don't need to figure that out. Round 1, you got however many seconds to answer. Ready to start. Bring up the first player. Let's just do a player name or player ID or whatever. Maybe that's poor phrasing. Okay, and then so they volunteer to go, and the teacher says who wants to go, and then the teacher is clicking start a round. Should it be start a round or start round? Start round 1. Start round 1. Okay, cool. And then let me put these. Let me just group them. How do you group them? I know a shortcut. Okay, grouped. Get it out of the way. So far so good, I think. We're still sticking to the MVP. I am noticing that I'm speaking softer now. Is that like anyway? Okay, clicks start round 1, and then what they should see. I don't like that. Okay, needed to. And then what they should see is the question screen. What should the screen include? Like, what are the types of information? I think timer. Who is answering, maybe? Definitely some way to like submit answer. Or it's not really submit answer because like teacher is going to be the one that is using the platform and the students are just seeing it. So the student, I guess let's take it slowly. So I guess the student will be reading the questions, obviously reading the question, and then attempts to answer it. Oh, cannot spell. Reads the question and attempts to answer it. Yeah, I think that's fair. So they get the question screen. So there's, oh, I totally missed the question itself. So the question itself, the timer, current active player, I guess is a good way to say it, and then some way to indicate that the student has answered. Maybe it's like, I don't like the phrasing of the students answered. Maybe it's lock-in answer, because like maybe the student is like thinking out loud and just going like, oh, is it this, is it that, and then maybe the teacher needs to be like, are you sure, like, is this the answer you want to lock in? Now I'm just imagining the story unfold. This is why it's called a story map. The other thing that I want to include on this, let's see if we can do it, is sound effect of like timer, tick-tock. I think it would be very anxiety-inducing, so maybe if we do this, we should give folks the ability to turn it off, but I think it could be fun. I know that there are some party games that have timers that are just like only the last 15 seconds or something has the timer sound. So this is a personal wish, is to have some sort of tick-tock timer. Okay, so the question itself, maybe, okay, current active player. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's it for the question. And then I think one other consideration is that, like, what if the student doesn't answer it in time? What happens? So maybe some way to like trigger it. What do you think? Time's up, like maybe some sort of like time's up. Time's up. Or if the student does answer it on time, it would be like answer sane or something. Let's make this one a little bit bigger. So some way, maybe it's a modal or something, that transition to the next screen. So they attempted to answer it. At this, I guess here, the teacher should be like, makes sure, or like asks if player's answer is final or something. And if so, click locking answer. So some sort of, let's just say a modal. Like this is more like a transition modal. Transition between two screens. So some sort of time's up or answers in, and it should be automatically. It should automatically go away and reveal the next screen, which should be like the answer screen. Should there be answer screen? Yeah, I guess so. Like even if the teacher is the one that is judging if the answer is correct. Yeah, it should. So I guess similarly, it should retain a lot of the information. So like the question itself, the current active player, and then buttons to indicate whether they got it correct or wrong. Correct or wrong. Oh, wrong sounds so wrong. Maybe it's just incorrect. Buttons correct or incorrect. So then the teacher is basically picking one or the other based on what the player's answer was. So clicks correct or incorrect. At this point, I'm also thinking like, would the teacher just click it, or would they first say like, tell me your thinking process? I have no idea what teachers are doing when like students get a question wrong. I'm thinking that like if the player is correct, the teacher will be like, "Yay, you did a good job." So maybe it celebrates correct answer and clicks correct. Or what's the opposite of celebrate? I don't know. It's not good. Or I guess I just use the ors like that. Or they are, I guess instead of the opposite of celebrate, it's more about like, what is the right answer? Maybe. So announces the correct, I guess correct. Announces the actual correct answer and clicks incorrect. So sad. Okay. The other thing that I want to do here is just to make a note on, not TikTok. It should be like some sort of like ding for correct, and some sort of like for like a buzzer for incorrect, just to make it a little bit fun. And then maybe this has some fun. Okay, I'm not gonna add stuff that is TBD. Okay, so they have answered the question, and they have celebrated or announced the correct answer. They are seeing the screen, and then I think what could be cool is just maybe another transition modal. Maybe it's not a modal even. Just saying like, just providing the feedback of what the teacher did, like, because like clicking the button, like students are not gonna see the teacher like clicking the button. So some visual feedback would be, visual and audio maybe, would be nice. So maybe some way of just saying like correct, and maybe saying, player is moving on to the next round. And then on the other hand, it would be sad beans, incorrect, player ID is out, boo. I think this is also a good time to think about like, maybe even on the answer screen, there should be some like subtle way to be like next player. Because I think it could be good to be mentally prepared. I guess Yeah, not even just like maybe both. Maybe we'll see. Okay, and I think that's it. For like a turn, right? Like I think that's done. I wonder if this should auto advance, because I think this transition modal should auto advance. Maybe let's not call it modal. Yeah, because I think this could be just like an overlay is how I'm picturing it. I know it's hard to visualize without visuals. Yeah, let's not call them modals just yet. But maybe this is a screen actually separately, like a results, like end of term screen. So it should say either this or that, and then it should have some way to indicate like next up, yeah, next player. I'm gonna start like just using italic for like actual copy versus like the types of information, because I am a little, I'm always confused by myself. Okay, player is moving on to the next round or incorrect, blah blah blah. So let's do this. Okay, ding for correct, buzzer for incorrect, and then I think next player, next up, player ID 2. Okay, and then some way to like start the next turn. Maybe it's just continue to the next turn. Next turn. I don't like the language of turn because it's like very specific. So maybe it's just continue. Maybe we'll test it and then tweak it. So some way to continue. I think I'm also thinking about like, is there, yeah, answer screen. Okay, end of turn screen, answer screen, question, answer ends the turn, and then each, like there's a bunch of turns that make up the round. Okay, so they are moving on to the next turn, and this is where I'm starting to think about like the loop. So at this point, the student clicks, no, not the student, the teacher clicks continue to start the next turn. So let's do that. So they click continue, and that should start back here, right? Yeah, question timer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. I don't have a good way of showing loops. So maybe I will just add a little like weird shape down here. No, it's kind of ugly. Okay, so I just want to indicate that this is like a turn loop, I guess. And then, so it repeats. Let me just think if everything is applicable. I think everything is applicable. So like, if the player 1 finish, clicks continue. Oh, I guess maybe ask like, who's next? Asks, who wants to go next? Okay, and then how does around end? Okay, because the teacher is not setting the number, so if we do build it so that like the number of players at the start is set by the teacher, then it would finish when that number is up. But because we're not doing that, at least I don't think, I think maybe we should just have a secondary button at the end of every turn. Maybe that's not ideal. But I think it will do. Like, it's probably not great for like the first couple students, but it gives the flexibility to the classroom to end the round there. Okay, so then I guess then the students are just answering one by one. And now I want to move on to like what happens towards like the end of a round. So when all players have taken a turn one by one. And I'm just putting it in bracket because it's not really an action. Okay, I need a bigger board. Let's make this bigger. No. Okay, don't look at the little eye down there. Okay, so when all players have taken a turn, let me just, does it make sense for it to be? Okay, I just want to look at this list again. So we are still sticking to it. Classic B preset. We're not really touching on what the questions are. Feedback, yeah, we're providing feedback. Okay, so end of game. So I'm gonna move it out of here because it's in the way, and I don't think I need to memorize anything else. So when all players have taken a turn one by one, the teacher then clicks on finish round instead of continue to finish the round. I think that makes sense. And then should they get some sort of like round summary or like the in-between round thing, whatever they call it. So we got game overview screen. So maybe it's a similar screen, right? Like it can be, maybe it's a round overview screen that just summarizes what happened in round one and what to expect next. So first of all, like what to expect next. Round two, you've got X seconds start. Round X, let's just call it X. And unlike the game overview screen, there should also be some sort of summary of what happened in round one, so the previous round. Like a high level, I think summary would be fine. Like maybe it's just like X out of Y players remain. Okay, I think that's good. And then start around X. Teacher starts around X. Can't start around X. Oh, I feel so productive even though I'm moving so slowly. Start around X. So when all players, okay, yep, that seems good. Clicks finish round. And then the round starts again, and it goes back to the question screen. Right? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so now I'm gonna add a little like thing here. And I'm totally like making this up as I go. But aren't we all? Okay, so this is looping, right? So the turns are looping, and then after however many turns and more people are eliminated, the round is finished. And then they get another overview screen and says like X out of, maybe it's X out of Y players in the last round. Or maybe it's maybe it's just X players remain. Like, who cares how many players there are? Okay, X players remain. Round 2, you've got X seconds to answer. I don't know if this is the case, but I think it could be cool if like the timers get shorter and shorter, especially to eliminate people faster. I think that could be interesting. Oh, I think Adnan's here. Let me just. Oh, hello.
Hey, good morning.
Hello.
Can I be heard?
Yeah, of course.
All right, amazing.
Hello.
Thanks for having me on your stream.
Okay, where was I? Okay, I gotta walk you through what I've done so far.
Okay, great.
So I'm starting to map out the solution without visuals, just more like the story of what's happening. So there's the system, facilitator, player. System is just whatever the interface is. So I would just tell you the story so far. I put in bracket teacher and student because I keep using them interchangeably.
Right.
So a teacher would open the product on their device, whether it's a web app or app, doesn't matter. Students sit around and wait at this point. There's not a lot they do on here because they don't have their own like direct interfacing surface. But I still think it's a good idea to like think about what they're doing at each step. Because I think we last time talked about like the physical elements of like, you know, maybe they're walking up to the front or something.
Yeah.
And then once they open the product, since we're not dealing with anything like selecting your question sets or anything like that, I think it's just a button of start. I did add a little like note of like it could be cool if it's bee themed. And then the teacher needs some way to project it so that the players can see it.
Right.
I put a note here because I don't even know what teachers use to project stuff these days.
In the image that was in the Math B deck, they were using a television.
Oh, okay.
And then when they were in the auditorium, they were using one of those projectors with the backdrop.
Okay. So it might be different. There might be different ways to project. Okay. And then I think they just start a game. Like they just, because there's only one button. There's only one button. I think like maybe there's a game overview screen that tells the players how many. Maybe this needs to be clearer on like to answer per turn or something.
I see. Like an intro screen. Got it.
Yeah. And then that also gives folks a moment to be like, oh, who's the first player?
Right.
Because I think we talked about like the pros and cons of like, would the teacher count the number of students at first and set that up, or would they just say like, you know, this is the end of the round when everybody's done first round? So the teacher at this point is going, who wants to go? And some tryhard is going to volunteer to go. And I think then they can start the round.
Another thing I might imagine just in this scenario is they might, and again, I don't know, I haven't been in a modern classroom, but I'm assuming they have a whiteboard somewhere, and they might, before they actually begin, just write their names to indicate which order they might go in.
Oh, okay. Or coordinate player order of some sort.
Yeah, the teacher might have a list, and yeah, it depends, I guess.
Okay. I guess let's not kill that. But okay, yeah, I think that would be maybe we should recommend that, because then there's less like who's next.
Yeah, confused. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's an interesting thought.
And again, if it's easy enough, by the time we get there, we might implement kind of upload a list of names.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the fallback is either way. Either fallback is fine to start.
Yeah, maybe it's just some like some setup tips on the welcome screen or something.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, on the welcome, it's like setup tips for the teacher, and then the game overview is for like really the students and the teacher once sort of as you're playing. Yeah, that's.
Okay, and then they start the first round, and I think we can just jump into a question. So this kid probably is at least standing. Actually, maybe not.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, yeah, I don't know how they want to execute it. Right? Do they have a table up front where the students come up? Is it in place? Yeah.
Okay, let's just leave that blank for now. And I'm outlining like components that I think should be a part of this screen, which is like obviously the question itself, timer, maybe, TikTok sound.
Oh wow! Oh, that's that. Okay, that's yeah, for sure.
I made a comment about how like I know I would be anxious if I heard TikTok sound.
100%. That's what I was going to say. It's like, the pressure's on.
So maybe it's like only the last 15 seconds or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then maybe the current active player and the next player, like it could just be a number. Although I guess if it's a number, then it's kind of redundant. Like, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, we can figure that out. That might still work. And obviously, once we have a list, that'll be clear. If not, it could be a number, or again, it might be one of those things we kind of don't put in there and then put in there once we get some feedback.
I had this like totally out of scope idea for like nicknames, because I really like the idea of nicknames. And initially I was like, oh, it would be so cool if like players can set their own nicknames, because then they can be, kids can be funny. But then like, given that that is a lot of like, like where do they do it? Like they need their own devices. What if we have just like some way to, I'm just going to put a different colored sticky here, some way to like generate random nicknames. So like just like a noun, cannot, like a something adjective plus noun, like just random string, like I don't know, maybe it's like silly duck.
Silly duck, okay, yeah.
Or something. And so it's a little bit funny.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that sound like scope creep?
I mean, it absolutely is, first of all. But secondly, there might be some concerns about like causing confusion as to who actually is supposed to go at this time, given that we also don't have a list of names. But what I can imagine, actually, just building on top of this, once we do have a list of names, we could generate like random funny icons for each one. Like an avatar that is actively silly, but it's beside your own name, which may or may not be a nickname. It just depends on what you enter and upload.
Okay, that was a side quest.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think there are like two ways the question phase ends. It's like either the player has given their answer, or the time's up, which is why I have this little transition something. It might just be like a little like visual before showing the answer screen. So if the player submit their answer and the teacher confirms that it's final, because
Right.
I was thinking they might be like thinking out loud and going like, oh, is it 5 or is it 6?
Right. Yeah.
And so the teacher might be like, which is it? Locking
Yeah.
the answer.
That was part of the slides as well, where it's like, hey, like, what is your actual answer? So maybe
Okay.
they either show it if they've done it on a piece of paper, or they yell it out. 18.
Okay. Oh, I guess they should say attempts to answer it. I guess provide a final answer. So, I don't think this needs to be a separate sticky though. Sorry, I'm just a little particular.
I do not accept your apology. So, your unnecessary apology is not
Okay.
accepted.
Okay, so they provide a final answer. So either time's up or the answer is in. And then the teacher decide if they are correct or incorrect. I think a lot of the same information on the question should remain. Like, I think the question should remain, probably.
Yeah.
So it's really just like the CTAs change.
Right.
And then some fun sound effects for getting it correct or incorrect.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the teacher is either celebrating and being like, yay, you did it, or the opposite.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if this is necessary, of like saying, okay, like you did it and you're going to advance, and I guess vice versa. I left it here because I think this is essential.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Is it? Because like if it's here already, do we need it?
There might be the case where the teacher still needs to click continue anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, okay. Additional information would be helpful here, I think.
Okay. And then they hit continue to move on to the next turn. Maybe the continue is like next player or something. Mm-hmm. And then I started like thinking about like which parts are basically loops, because this is I made this graph, this ugly graph of like there is a player turn, like many player turns make up a round, and one or more rounds make up a game.
Yep.
And so that's why I added these turn loop and round loop. So the turn and end of turn goes back here, and it just repeats however many times is required.
Yeah.
When all players have taken a turn one by one, the teacher clicks finish round instead of next player.
Yep.
Next player. And then they see some sort of round overview screen, which is very similar to the game overview screen. I mean, arguably, this is like round one overview screen. But I think the only additional information that I think would be nice to have is just like a summary of how many players remain. Originally, I was like, you can say like, 3 out of 20 players remain. But then I was like, who cares about the like I was gonna say like X of Y players remain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I think for design purposes, as you're putting together wireframes or even like higher fidelity visuals, I think it's actually useful to go in heavy on the game dynamics, which is to say,
Okay.
like add things like uploading a list of names to begin. Though that might not be in like even as I build it, I'll build it in kind of cycles where I might still sort of take elements from the wireframes and ignore some elements on the first run of building. But we might decide, hey, because we'll try it amongst ourselves and we'll decide, hey, like we don't feel comfortable giving this to a teacher. And therefore we want to use our judgment. And even if our judgment's incorrect, fine, whatever. But the idea being that we still want to use our judgment to maybe add that list of students or add the timer or,
Okay.
and then these elements become relevant where we are able to display this information. So I would love for you not to necessarily hold back within the game dynamics.
Okay.
Knowing that just as I'm building it, I'm going to purposely leave out things and kind of layer things as I go.
Okay. That sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
And then I think we were nearing the end of this exercise because I think the rounds repeat, and at some point the teacher ends the game. I guess there are two ways the game ends. Like either the teacher is like, "This is enough rounds, we ran out of time," or there is only one winner left.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to map that. Maybe it's just only one player left.
Yeah.
Clicks end game. So this is instead of start the next round, I guess.
Yeah.
So this should be. Okay, and then some way to show the final results.
Yeah.
Remaining players, play your own players. Anything else?
Again, I think
back to home.
Might not be in the first version, but I think you should go. Any data here you feel that we could have collected if a functionality were to exist? I feel like you should. Yeah, like I feel
fun.
Like when I said go for it, like when I said go heavy on game dynamics within the game construct, I'm saying go heavy. Like why not? Like so speed of answering, like average speed of answering, for example, or and again, we might not anything that is collectible. So we might not initially collect it, but it's it's present within the natural game dynamics, so we can eventually add it, no problem.
Okay. Okay, would you, because I'm thinking about like a lot of these ideas, like would you consider any of them as part of that? Because I think, like for example, one idea I had was like audience reacting. Like would you consider that?
Well, that
at
then
this point
leaves them to have their own device.
That's true.
Which then adds a whole new layer.
Okay.
So
Okay,
anything that I think there's no added, I guess, elements or complexity. So anything that's sort of self-contained within the game loop, I guess.
Okay, I see. Okay. Okay, cool. Let me go back here. I think that's it. That's it in terms of like a story map.
And we've left out things like any settings that you need to enter before you begin. Maybe the list of students is probably the one exception we'll make to that, because it we foresee that improving the user experience. And so that one, but nothing like the number of rounds or difficulty, all that stuff is kind of on the outskirts.
The one thing I think I like the story map does not consider is like the content. like what are the questions, how are the questions created.
Yeah. I think that matters. Like, I actually don't even think that matters much on the initial run, because I might not build it this way. It just depends on, but I can imagine myself building it so that it actually shows the same question in every screen, because the other dynamics are probably more important to get down than what questions we're showing, because the way to abstract a question, like abstract away a question, is really, it's a question and it has some answer. And those are the things that, and we'll only pick questions with set answers anyway, just based on the discussion we had before, because that simplifies things. We're able to show a more kind of strict flow. And so on a first dev run, I might not even consider the questions at all.
Okay, that's good. I was like, I don't know even like where to begin with this.
Yeah, because in my mind, I'm like, what can I simplify? Like, what's the most important thing from at least the dev perspective, or even a user perspective, might be, hey, what do the user interactions and the flow looks like? And at that stage, the questions themselves aren't as important, and that can come as a secondary layer once that's ready.
Okay, cool. I'm feeling good about the story map. I think at this point, I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, there's the welcome screen. There's like the round overview screen. It's like round 1 is a little bit different from the other one, but it's pretty same. There's the question screen. There's the answer screen, end of turn screen, and some like results screen. So that's just like 6 screens. So not too heavy, which is great. And then I think everything else is more like things we can sneaking here and there as we go.
Question for you is, what's your preferred method of approaching the next step? And when you say wireframes, what's the level of fidelity that you're imagining? I mean, one is, like at work, necessarily you might take different steps for approvals and this and that. But also, I'm curious on what's in your heart. Like when you're like, hey, I'm ready, and you're like stretching your fingers, what are you hoping to work on?
I think at work, a lot of the times I would have already set up some sort of design system on Figma. So it's almost easier to go straight to high fidelity.
Right.
There's pros and cons, of course, because a lot of times when you go straight to high fidelity in the exploration phase, stakeholders mistaken that as final designs. And there's consequences to that. So it's definitely easier when there's already an existing design system to go straight to it. Because I think there's also like limitations of wireframing that you don't see until you see the final design. Like a lot of times when you put placeholder text, you don't really think about how much there might be. And then when you put actual copy with final designs, you're like, oh, why is this so text dense? Or like, why are these elements, like, why do they look weird? I think with brand new projects, that's where I probably would start with wireframes. And I think one also just, it helps us move forward. Because I think last time we were talking about how, like, is there anything that can be done on the dev side, before wireframing? And I think your answer was kind of like, probably not.
I mean, especially in this case, because I want to specifically begin with this flow versus like user sign up or what have you. Even then, I probably want to wait for some kind of visual to begin, because to be honest, it's more fun.
Okay. I don't have a lot of experience wireframing on FigJam, so I'm gonna be struggling here.
How would you normally wireframe?
Honestly, like I pen and paper.
Oh wow! And you're not prepared to pen and paper thing?
I mean, like, I have an iPad, but like I think it's gonna be a bit weird of a setup. So we can struggle through it together.
I mean, we could spend maybe 30 seconds discussing it. We don't have to set it up, but
Okay.
once you do, so it's one of the things I quickly tried when we were playing around with Restream was because like the setup that I have is I do have my laptop and at least one extra monitor, and that extra monitor would be my screen sharing monitor, let's just say. Now, right now, I happen to be looking at the Restream because you're on it and the screen you're sharing is on it. But when I'm sharing the screen, I would bring the Restream view onto my laptop, which is, I guess, over here physically, and then share my full screen. And then have on my full screen all kind of the apps that I would want to switch between. And one of them would be QuickTime, because you can do a movie recording on QuickTime, select your iPad or iPhone as the input source, and then that just becomes an app that you're sharing. It's not perfect in its ways, but it's so easy to set up comparatively that the imperfections are acceptable.
I am on a PC. Is that a factor?
That might be a factor. Yes, I was not aware that you're a PC gal. This is news to me. I am stunned. Is this your preferred working environment?
It's my like more multi-purpose environment.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how that would work on a PC. That's a very good point.
Okay. I think I can draw. I can sort of draw with my mouse. So maybe let's do that. Let me just.
Sorry, a few more questions, just because I'm curious on what your approach is. I've seen different designers sort of set up different work environments. Do you ever use like a tablet and pen setup hooked into your computer? Or do you prefer like, no, I don't want that?
I used to, like, when I was in my first full-time job, I had that set up. I don't know. I think over time I sketched less and less with pen and paper, and
Right.
therefore less and less with a stylus. I find it helpful with like early ideation for sure. Like I definitely have used it when it's like you're building from scratch. But as soon as like you have the foundationals, I tend to just jump straight into Figma.
Right.
So I think it helps with like thinking more than the doing, if that makes any sense.
No, that absolutely makes sense. And I may sprinkle in more interview style questions here, just so, because I'm curious about kind of work methodology and mindset as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, before you came here, it was so awkward. I was just talking to myself. It was so weird.
Okay, so
I don't talk to myself.
Yeah, exactly. Tanjos's question is, I mean, even though you're like, okay, well, we're doing the stream, we're just starting, don't really have a live audience necessarily. But when you come onto the stream and you start doing it and you're alone and there's nobody else, what is the nerves level? Like, is there a nervousness level or anxiety level that you're carrying into it? Even as you're doing it, you're like, this is weird.
Definitely. What's the scale here?
The scale is whatever you feel in your heart.
Whatever the highest is, that's what it is.
That's fair. One note is when I was doing the coding live streams years ago, I wouldn't like I would do it without putting myself on the screen, because that, to me, that would add another layer of just like nervousness, and I feel like it'd just be me going most of the time I'm like, who wants to see that? Who want, like, that's no.
That's funny. And how comfortable are you now?
You know, I think definitely when you're in tandem and you're sort of having a conversation, it's easier to forget that this isn't just like a Google Meet we're in, and that there's no cameras facing us. It just feels like a conversation.
Yes. And now you have reminded me.
You're welcome.
I'm just putting in some stock images if I can find some good ones. Let's just put some random light bulbs here, just like here's a tip. Here's a tip. This is how you can set up tips or whatever. And some visual. At this point, I'm more thinking about like the functionality than anything else.
Mhm.
And then, so this is the welcome screen. And then the round overview screen. We are thinking web, right?
Yeah, we're thinking web. Yeah, that's a good question, because initially, even again on the first kind of game loop, I'll be focusing on single screen dynamics, where so the teacher controls happen to be displayed to the students.
Yeah.
But there might be a time where we're like, hey, this is not like as sort of pleasant to view, or the UI isn't great, and we could pull those out, because then I'm adding an extra device, and that may not, the device itself is not as big a deal, but the live update on the 2 pages is just an extra layer of complexity that we're introducing. It's very much like a chat. You know how like one user sends a chat message and the chat message pops up. Those sort of real-time dynamics.
Yep. Okay. Just gonna make them a little bigger.
Another question for you is, how much in this process or the secondary process have you started to include any AI sort of
fun question.
things?
I was actually going to ask you about some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How have I used it? Not a lot, to be honest. I've used it. I think about like product work in like exploration stuff and delivery stuff, and I have definitely used it for more. I guess I've used it on both, but for very different purposes. So one thing that I do a lot of in my work is running experiments. So I have definitely used AI tools to refine my experiment, like both in shaping what the experiment is, but also there are some experiments that are like live coded experiments. And so I'm like literally asking it to review my shitty JavaScript.
Okay. Oh, interesting. All right. And then how about in this particular phase where you're sort of going from these notes that you've taken to visuals, and I don't even know what the tooling around this would be, but is there kind of like, you select a sticky here and you say, hey, give me a wireframe that looks like what I'm describing here. Is that a thing at all right now?
I think I know that Figma has some features like that. I've never really tested it. I think my general principle so far, at least, can change, is to use AI for completion type tasks. Like, I don't think we should be outsourcing the thinking part to AI. I don't know. I've seen too many like examples of people who like just had a one-liner idea and was like, generate a product requirement doc, and then it creates this really nice looking doc, but it's full of like contradictions and just like poor design. So I would probably use it in general, like in completion type task, like usually like when I'm like, okay, I have this, like these stickies, and I might, use ChatGPT to be like, is there anything that I might be missing? Or like, is there anything that can make this, a better experience? But I think
Got
the
it.
foundations, I mean, unless you're building a product that's been built many, many times before.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. How are you using AI?
Well, I guess I'll start about this on two fronts. One is I have played around where like, oh, I have this idea for a screen. Can you give me a wireframe or a mock-up? Generate an image of an app that looks something like whatever I might be describing. And I've had very poor luck with that kind of a thing, even when I'm describing things that are fairly standard descriptions. And I'm not sure what I think maybe that my prompting needs to be far more precise. And I'm honestly, it's less effort to go to Google with the idea and see sort of inspiration, or go on Dribbble or some other sort of design inspiration setting, and I probably find that much faster than sort of trying to prompt engineer something. When it comes to ideas, I'm wary of using AI because I'm very it's a hit on my ego. Like, I want to say that the idea came from me. Like, I'm very particular. I'm like, no, I want my ideas. I don't want the ideas of generated by all of human, word.
Yeah, it's like an average, right? Like,
it's either an average or a relation, but even then, I still want, even if it was great, it's not about the quality of the idea. It's about ownership, and I want it to be mine at that stage. It's like, and it's a very selfish, egotistical thing. I'll recognize that. Having said that, when I'm coding, I do use AI for starter sort of situations for boilerplate code, and then I use code completion AI from what GitHub provides. So that's sort of my range.
Are those like, so are you using Copilot then?
Yeah, GitHub Copilot, it's built into my code editor. So as I'm typing a line of code, it will have some context on the code that exists on the screen or comments that I've added. And sometimes when I want something that's sort of fairly standard, boilerplate, I'll write the comment for it and hope that it understands what I want.
How I briefly used use is a strong word. I've briefly used Cursor a little while back, and I'm sure it's fairly similar to Copilot, but I found it so cool that like you can use it alongside your whole like code base.
Yeah.
Like it knows all of that context.
Yeah, when we get to it, I'll kind of walk you through my setup, and I feel like when it comes to higher UI elements, like I use a very old code editor, and it's not great when it comes to UI interactions. Let's just say.
Interesting.
So it'll be it's very textual versus visual UI. Oh yeah.
How do you feel? So you said you used some of the platforms that did not give you good results. Can you name drop?
Yeah, I tried ChatGPT. I tried Claude, I don't believe, does images. That's when I discovered that. And then what else? And I was doing this with a friend as well. She had an idea of an app that she wanted to build, and we were like, let's see what happens when we look for some kind of design inspiration through AI. But I'm sure there's more specific tools that are built for that kind of a thing. So ChatGPT, Claude didn't help because it doesn't do the image generation, and then Google Gemini tried as well. And Gemini was weird because sometimes it would give me an image and it wasn't great, but other times it'd be like, I can't make this image for you. but I'll give you. It ended up giving me kind of like a description of what the UI would look like in text. I was like, okay, great. That's, for someone who's not sort of design capable, it was like, thanks a lot. Thanks for nothing.
Okay, interesting. I have never used Gemini. Is it like, is the interface like, I guess the mode of interaction the same?
Yeah, it's very similar. I have started using Gemini a little bit, just within my IDE for coding purposes, and it seems to. The latest version seems to think for a bit longer, and which makes me feel like it might be better.
doing
You know what I
better?
mean? We're like, yeah, exactly. I don't know if that's concretely true. It might actually be, but definitely it's spending more time on the thinking part.
Neat. I've only really used ChatGPT and Claude. I heard that Claude has like good skills when it comes to code, but I have no idea. How did you use the tools? Like, were you just using the regular, chat interface, or were there other?
For Gemini, yes. I was using Google's sort of AI Studio. And then for ChatGPT, I use this tool called Raycast. And it's sort of kind of a extension or improvement on your general Spotlight tool on a Mac. And it has some AI things built in, like an AI add-on that I am paying for, and it allows me access to multiple AI models. So it'll give you access to like Meta's model and ChatGPT and various models. But you don't get their interface, right? So you get Raycast interface, and the backend Raycast is kind of missing the APIs to get you that stuff. So I mean, sometimes I'll play around. So this is sort of the outside interface that's not built into my IDE. And then I think recently GitHub Copilot has given you the ability to add more and more models or use different models for the built-in chat as well.
What is there an example of something that you try to build through one of these methods?
No, not really. I haven't, I use the
It's more just
autocomplete.
experiment.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, let's see what this does. What was the most helpful when I described kind of in more detail is we also tried V0 from Vercel. And that was a bit more helpful than trying to ask certain models for images. Was like, hey, V0, build this kind of app for me. And then we were able to play around with sort of interactions or what sort of the UI might look like. Yeah, but I don't know whether I'd want to, like something like this. I wouldn't want to, I don't want the AI's thoughts and ideas on this. Like I want to, if I'm typing out code and it autocompletes for me, great. But I don't want interactive elements. I still want it to be mine. Like that, I just feel like I can't claim it's my idea, my work. And that may change in the future, but that's sort of just my sense right now.
Interesting. I've done a little bit of so I've used, what have I used? I've used Replit, like their AI features. I have used, what's the other one I'm thinking of? I feel like I told you about it too. I don't remember, but I've used Lovable as well. And I think the other one I've used is Roark, which is, I think, catered to mobile, maybe.
That's what it seems like. Somebody at work just sent me work just today.
Okay.
Saying, hey, and so I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they are similar. I've attended a couple workshops as well with people who are more in the know than me. But what I find really interesting is that like the one skill I learned from like playing around as well as like attending those workshops is that like the best thing is to like make the first time the AI creates code the best. Like you have one chance to set it up nicely, because as soon as like the AI creates a chaotic architecture, it's so hard to like fix without introducing other chaos. Because every time you try to tweak it, it's just rewriting the whole thing, and then it's like, oh no, this got fixed, but this other thing got broken. So the one tip that I heard that I apply in my experimentation is to like be extremely detailed in that first like prompt, and also it's a bit of hit or miss, but and also like try to make it not write code right away. Like tell it to don't write any code, tell me how you would do this. So like you can look at how it's thinking and be like, you know, the step that you're saying here, let's not do that.
Yeah, I mean, in my heart, I want the opposite. I want to give it as little as possible.
That's true.
And you know, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get that's where the technology is at. We see
That's
some
true, yeah.
room for improvement in the future, so it might get to the state that I want in my heart. But definitely, I get discouraged using it because I'm like,
That's
no,
true.
that's
It's too much work.
yeah, the whole point of using you is like,
Yeah.
I don't like filling out forms, and now I have to fill out forms. You're telling me like what? Like no.
That's true. Yeah, I guess so. Like you still have to do the hard part.
I mean, it does do a lot of work for you, but then it doesn't feel like it's because a lot of it is emotional feeling related. And if the emotion you're associating with AI processes is sort of this like wrestling with it to get the right thing, then that's the association you make with the tool. And now anytime some app says AI included, I'm like, well, this is going to be frustrating. My response isn't, oh, wow, this is going to help me a lot. It's, what? No.
Do I want to deal with AI
yeah,
today?
like, yeah, if I wanted to deal with an amateur, I'd hire an amateur.
Yeah, I guess so. Like one analogy I hear is like, it's like having a very junior, like whoever, that needs a lot of guidance.
But that also lies to you because sometimes I'll be like, hey, write me this code that does this thing, and it will give me functions that don't exist. And then now I have to tell you that it doesn't exist? Isn't that the whole point of using a computer with access to all of human knowledge? Is I don't have to tell you? You know, fine, I'm not asking you for your opinion. I'm asking you for, like, read the docs. And it's not just once. I'm sorry, this is a rant, but
you sound like you have some emotions there.
Absolutely. It's, I'm like, and then I tell it it's the wrong function. And they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I used the wrong function. Here's the correct one. And it's also wrong. So now, not only did you lie to me once, you lied to me twice. I thought you were a computer.
And it's so confident too. It's like,
exactly.
It's like, I got this.
Yeah, it's like a super highly confident amateur with, again, access to all of human knowledge, nearly all of human knowledge, considering.
Well, I feel like not. Yeah, well, I'm not going to comment on that. Let's just say that, like, I think, like, because it has access to all of human knowledge, it might be a detriment.
Sure. But while I agree with you, and you kind of hinted towards sort of regressing towards the mean sort of situation where it's like, you're giving me something that's super average. In this case, just read the docs. Like your document is this. I'm asking you to use a specific tool, like a specific code library to get this. And, the first one to figure out how not to lie about code, I feel like is going to be a major improvement.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that is one thing. I've tried to use AI tools in a lot of not really like research synthesis, but summarizing the synthesis.
Yeah.
Because I find that like my brain often works faster than I can type. So
Right.
a lot of times I'm typing really chaotic, disorganized notes. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with like formatting it nicely and sharing it with different stakeholders who
Yeah.
might need different levels of information. So I will literally be like, here's my notes. Can you write a summary for like, executives, or like, can you write a summary for the product team? And I found that helpful.
For sure.
Because it's like taking the unfun part of my job.
Yeah, exactly.
And automating it.
That's what tools are supposed to do, right? Is take away sort of your grunt work.
Yeah.
I have appreciated the meeting summaries that I get. I haven't installed a tool myself, but anytime anyone else has the tool in a meeting, I guess everyone gets sent those summaries. That's how it's set up, at least. And what's interesting there, though, is even the same tool used by two different people will give me like varying summaries of the same meeting, which is always fascinating. It's like some of them, and it's the same tool, so it's going through the same data, and some of them will have like more notes or more follow-up points for me, and some of them won't, which is why I've refused now in meetings to take ownership of anything.
I see. Should we use a meeting summary?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, it could be helpful. Like we can
Yeah,
even
absolutely.
just populate like the description or something.
I feel like most of my meeting summaries will be reflective of my life, which is me saying things I'm going to do and never doing them.
Oh my god. What's the latest?
If I remembered, I might even actually do them, So
Okay.
I like how we've been chatting and you've sort of put together this flow during that period.
I think we have it. So there's the welcome screen, some sort of like round one, like round overview. I think for round one, there's basically not going to be an end game button. Oh, I was thinking it could be fun to have like, it could be fun to have like the little bee just in the corner.
Yes.
And they just show up each time there's a new player, and then they dwindle.
Absolutely. If you want to, and again, when I say go heavy, if you feel like a bee should be buzzing around, obviously not distracting in intense, like this slide is a tense one because the student's like, oh my god, but in the slides sort of coming in or the screens coming in and out, kind of these informational screens, definitely injecting fun in there. Like go for it, like go heavy. When I say go heavy, like yeah, be fun, go heavy, and then later I'll be like, I'm not going to start with that, but it makes it available, and which means that when there's a moment when we're done the meat of it, it means that we're sort of already ready to move on to the next step of adding the frills.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, don't hold back is what I'm saying, but just be ready for me to be like, I don't know.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. I think yeah. Is there anything that you feel like it's missing?
Can we just do a once over?
Yeah. Let's see. What's the best way to do it?
Oh, I meant of the screens themselves. But is there something else that you're imagining? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So welcome is mostly visual, so there's not much here.
Yeah.
When they hit start a game, they have a round overview that tells them how much time they got per term. mean, we can workshop the copy. And then whoever is the first player, maybe an avatar here, start the round. And then question screen is just the question, who's currently answering, button to locking their answer, who's next. This basically just changes the CTA. And then,
Right.
Oh, I don't think I created an incorrect screen, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, okay, great. Incorrect screen, yep.
Let me just make a copy.
You're going to do that now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said that like you're going to do that now.
Well, you said we should. And, when you say we should, it's kind of like, is it now? Is it later?
It's now.
I need it now because I don't know what icon to put there. You know what I mean? I'm just going to be at a loss.
Is out of running. Out of the running?
Yeah, and again, and I keep sort of, I'll keep stressing it. Go heavy, like, make it sad.
Make it sad. Make it like rain. I thought it could be hilarious if we can like have like really funny sounds, like.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of like loser associated sounds. Let's just say.
Wah, 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 wah. Like, yeah, the whole, go for it.
And then there's just the game results. I think that's it.
Yeah. I want to throw more work at you, if I may.
Okay. I mean, I will probably make mock-ups too.
Okay, right. But I mean, and I want to bring this up now so you can kind of decide when that comes into play and when you want to do it or if you want to do it, of course, is if we took the whole thing and then separately also thought about what if this was a presenter screen and a teacher screen, and because things like, and maybe I'm just saying this to get your gears churning and kind of even in the back of your head, which is one thing I can imagine is the answer being displayed to the teacher even before being displayed to the student. So there's some information. So in this case, we're sort of assuming that everyone can see everything, which is great because that will be the version 0. But having a separate process allows us to imagine what additional things the teacher might see or want to look at. But yeah, it's for later, but just something I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, okay. One other thing that I think could be interesting to do that don't really block us is to talk to people who are teachers.
I was actually thinking about this. So yes, I mean, I will talk to my sister further just to get a sense of how she might even play a game like this in class, just so we get the physical dynamics. But the second thing I was thinking of was to put out, and again, I don't have that many connections on LinkedIn, so the response may vary. But I do want to put out a call to say, hey, like who do I have that are teachers in my network or things I'm working on something and would love some feedback or would love to talk. I'll probably start with a call out to math teachers and see if there's anyone that might respond.
Yeah, I can do that too. Yeah, I think the other thing that I'd love to, I'm going to stop sharing unless you feel that we still need this. Wait, where is the stop button? Stop. Okay.
Well, before we move on from that, I mean, we can have it gone, of course, but are you ready for me to start?
Question to your question. Does it feel like there's enough there? Like, are there other like uncertainties that could either block you or mean headaches down the line?
No, I think uncertainty is fine, and headaches down the line is absolutely fine. Like that's just part of the process. We'll change things as we go. So I'm not. I didn't want to start too soon and then have diverging builds like too divergent. Now here's is like some sort of alignment, which is fine.
I think, okay, I am going to share my screen for a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because it might be relevant. This is the moment I drag down the eyeball.
I did not even notice. Okay.
The reason why I hid it is because I guess I was thinking about like the solution, and I'm like, this is pretty straightforward. But because we're talking about like maybe potentially talking to teachers, it could be interesting to like think about each of the steps and what assumptions we're making as a part of the solution. I don't think there's a lot, but
yeah.
But like, for example, assuming that teachers have access to a way to project stuff, and that could be an assumption. Going back a little bit, an assumption is what needs to be true for the system, the players to move on to the next step.
Right.
So an assumption I would add here is that teacher has access to projector.
Yeah.
Or to project. To has ability to project. Because I don't know. I would assume that, in 2025 it's it should be like basic.
Yeah. I mean, even before, you have to have a computer in class, right? So depending on the grade level, that may vary, or you have to have access to one to bring one in. It also makes me remember when teachers used to like push the TV dolly into the classrooms back in my day. Anyway, I don't know about.
I had that too.
About the future, but yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think there's too much here.
No, and I think because I think one of the advantages also of like starting super bare bones to even begin is I'm happy to be wrong about certain assumptions at this stage, even while building, because I feel like it's still progressing us towards where we want to go without wasting too much time. I think when you're thinking about it from a work environment too, you're like, if you're going to spend 3 days, that's 3 days wasted of like the net group or what have you, and which is sort of less of a concern in my mind right now. That's because true. I think the process is more interesting. But the second part of it is, and then the advantage even in work environments is when you do go super bare bones on your initial runs, you're also reducing the cost of incorrect assumptions.
Yeah. Do we want to try to see if we can bring in a teacher? Because I want to talk to like my brother-in-law, who apparently teach grade 9 to 12, I think. Which I guess it's rare to find teachers who teach that specific grade.
Bringing in a teacher, how would you want that session to go? So would in terms of what would be sharing in terms of visuals, perhaps, and then where would you want the line of questioning to focus?
Yeah, I think I have my curiosities about like what are the current similar solutions they are using.
Yeah.
And how that's going. Like, are there gaps? Are they not fun? Or like like how is that?
I'd be curious also. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Please. I thought you were done. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and I think those are both like sources of inspiration in terms of like pattern, like UX pattern, but also like maybe sources of like how do we differentiate.
Right.
So yeah, more on like the positioning strategy side than the product itself, I guess.
I have maybe a counterintuitive thought to that, which is, I think maybe. So I think while we should understand what would help us differentiate, I don't think we should necessarily try and differentiate. um, because I feel like sometimes access to market is more important than differentiation in product distribution. Which is to say that you can build up a good customer base having zero differences from other products. And that's purely because you marketed it to the right group of people that would adopt. And you've spent zero time in trying to differentiate yourself. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, not that we shouldn't differentiate. I don't want to sort of, but I don't think it should be like the crux of it um, because one of those things where sometimes you tell people I'm working on this personal project, and they'll be like, oh, it's already been done. Or you might even say, hey, I'm trying to do this to bring it to the market, and I don't think it matters if it's already been done or not. And I'd even go for us to say that differentiation even doesn't matter as long as you do have some distribution strategy that doesn't care about differentiation. And in my case here, at least one of my motivations is, hey, just getting it into my sister's classroom, which is like I have the distribution of like I have it, and which means we don't have to chase it necessarily at this stage.
That's true. Yeah.
The other thing I'd be interested in learning from teachers, very close to what you said, but broadly, I just want to know, even without necessarily think outside the app, which is like what activities or like enjoyment activities or competitive activities are they running in class, how they're running them, what their sort of frequency, like just even ideas around the context of what we were building, without again thinking sort of not necessarily from an app perspective, because we might not necessarily be competing, quote unquote, with a web app or with a tool that's digital.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like what are how are they spending time with their kids? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So I would almost want to start off from that angle, and then kind of maybe they will introduce us to things that we even digital stuff that we were not aware of.
Yeah, I have this this is a very far side tangent, but I have this a lot of my more fun ideas are like, how do we make improv activities digital?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I think they're really fun, and I'm like, I'm never gonna go to improv, but I
sorry, time out. I have to interrupt here completely. Is why would you say that you would never go to improv?
Okay, I guess never is too extreme. The likelihood of
what is the extreme? I'm actually going to pursue this line of questioning until I'm satisfied. Excuse you. What's preventing you from, why did you even sort of contextualize improv as something that is so untouchable for you?
I think it's because I'm an awkward person.
And have you ever been to an improv? You think you're the only awkward person at an improv?
Okay, I have not been to an improv, so maybe that's the problem.
I have, and trust me, if you,
okay.
I mean, you might. I mean, there's two cases here. One, you might be afraid is a bad word. You might be hesitant to present your awkwardness, regardless of whether other awkwardness is present. So that, but if you feel like you won't fit in or you will fit out, I assure you, those are concerns that you don't need to have. I can 100% guarantee you that you will not be the most awkward or weird person.
Okay. I mean, maybe I should give it a try.
I highly recommend it. I know that Second City has drop-in classes every so often. And definitely their regular classes, as you advance in them, are a lot more fun than the drop-in ones, but the drop-in ones can be very fun as well.
When did you do improv?
10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I went through Second City's general improv program. I think they have level A, B, C, D, E, I think 5. And the deep, I think in level C is when they first put you on stage with random like a random audience. So they'll ask everyone to kind of just invite their own people, and it'll also be like an open thing. And that's like, yeah, level B and C is when it starts getting real fun. And even the classes are fun. Like it's almost going to a show, because like you're seeing other people for like half the time you're just seeing other people perform. You're not necessarily performing yourself, even in class. So, but highly recommend an improv drop in even. Okay, sorry, I just had to. You were like, I never.
Yeah, never is a little too far, I guess.
Okay, all right. Sorry, back to work now. What's the
What were we talking about? Oh yeah,
you wanted an improv guide, an digital improv guide.
Yeah. I think that could be fun because there's a lot of like social board games and card games that I really enjoy. To the point that I'm like, they're not even like games. And this is only very loosely related to improv, but like it's more just like prompts to get people to engage with each other.
Yeah. And I still love the idea of, and I mentioned this before, is kind of Honeypot potentially being kind of a suite of these kinds of games or tools for facilitators and players broadly, but even within an educational context. I think that'd be very cool. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those like magic dust future things, but maybe I'm down.
Cool. I think, should we wrap it up?
Let's go.
So next steps. Do you think it's worthwhile to start mocking up while you start
Absolutely.
doing your thing?
Absolutely. And
I want to see what you do next.
Yeah, but I do feel like it depends on what your time and availability is to work on it. If you're like, hey, I want to jump into the next steps, absolutely. And again, go heavy. Do what, like with the interactions, with like inject fun where you think it's relevant, and go for it. For me, yeah, I'll need to start off with just doing kind of a bunch of boilerplate stuff to set up sort of the underlying code base so that I can start working on screens. So that'll be my first step. And then, yeah, the second step will be just literally to start working on a game screen. And my former working is far more chaotic and disorganized compared to kind of your process. So I'm just like, what do I want? And I'm just kind of my way through the whole thing. So
Will we
I'm
get
curious
to see
whether,
it?
well, if I do sort of an in-between thing, would you be like to be part of that process live, or is that something that, because for me now, I get to watch half of this stream that I'm not part of as a viewer, which is going to be super interesting.
Oh man.
And then and I'll give you notes as well. And I won't. I'm sorry. I just said that to, but I'm curious on what one, because the downside of I feel like you're more organized with your time as well. Me, I'm like, oh, it's Sunday 3:18 and I feel like working, so I'll just like start, and that makes it a bit weird for kind of getting something set up.
I think if you don't like, I think if my input does not block you, feel free to be chaotic.
Okay, yeah, no, there's no concerns here about there's no blocking concerns anymore, right? Like I feel like we're pretty good with that.
Okay,
but yeah,
give
let
me a
me know
heads up.
Yeah,
I can be your audience.
okay, great. Yeah, that's I will probably shoot you a note to be like, hey, I'm feeling like I'm gonna do this. I might not do it. I'm still debating whether to go live for the boilerplate stuff. But 100% I want to go live for when I start working on the meat of it.
Okay, sounds good.
And I might even be like, hey, I'm gonna go live in an hour. Like that's the kind of unfortunately, that's the kind of heads up that I will provide at times.
That's okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Well, I hope you have a good weekend.
I hope you have a beautiful weekend.
It's Friday.
It's a good Friday of all Fridays. Too.
It is a good Friday. Yeah, not a bad Friday. All right, should we call it?
Lead us out.
Bye.